What's up? It's Mike Mal, and you are listening to the Athletor Podcast, where we dive into the processes, mindsets, strategies of some of the most successful athletes and coaches from all walks of life. Athletor Podcast coming at you. This week's guest is the announcing voice of wrestling, Bryan Hazard. We go through the ways that he came up through the announcing game, the ways that he kind of morphed his style of announcing of this sport. We also talk on a 28-year-old coaching career that has changed so much from the day that he started coaching to the day that he finished. And then we also get into a little bit of how he coached his sons. You're going to be surprised about how many people he put on Mount Rushmore too. All that and more coming up on the podcast, man. Don't miss it. Hey, everyone knows that wrestling is 90% mental. We're super excited to have partnered with Wrestling Mindset, the #1 wrestling-specific mindset program in the world. Make sure to sign up at WrestlingMindset.com using promo code Athletor25 for a $500 discount. Stop underperforming and losing to guys that you should beat. Athletor Podcast coming back at you. We got the voice of wrestling, the man with the silky sweet pipes. Bryan Hazard, how are you, sir?
Hey, I am doing great. I've gotten to spend the last, about 4 or 5 weeks with you, different places around the country. It's been awesome. Everything's going great. How about you all? Everything good?
Everything is very good. It's funny, man. We travel around the country, you and I both, and a bulk of those events are with Frank Pop. And if you know Frank, he has very strict rules about travel. And those rules you have to adhere to are you get on the first flight out every single time without fail, no matter what. Well, guess what? And the reason being is because generally those flights aren't delayed or they're not canceled, because they're the first flight out. They have the plane sitting there.
Generally.
The reason I bring it up is because there have been some exceptions to those rules over the last 3 weeks, and I have let him and Delta know all about it.
I actually flew Delta on my way back, and it was all good, but I never saw the text that the gate had changed. So I was just sitting at my gate, B1, hanging out, and I realized it was like 1:10. The flight was leaving at 1:30, and I looked, and there was no plane. So I went, and they were like, "You got a text? It's in B4." Almost missed it. It would have been bad, but I didn't.
Yeah. I've done that before, by the way, and missed the flight with a team full of kids.
Boom. They shouldn't tell you it's in B1 if it's not in B1.
I know. Okay, so one of the reasons I wanted to have you on was because wrestling is such an interesting ecosystem to me. We're such a it's such a close-knit community, and it seems like we all find our niche in the sport, and yours happened to be announcing, and you and I have spent years together.
Right.
I never asked you, how did you get into, how did you start doing this?
Narcissism is a strong disease, isn't it?
I wouldn't know.
You're right. So actually, my work study while in college was in an athletic ticket office at George Mason University, and I was 17 years old. Got to college, working in the office, doing busy work, picking up the phone, making phone calls, trying to sell season tickets to George Mason basketball, and the women's volleyball announcer bailed like 2 hours before the match was to start.
Okay.
And so they said, "Would you be interested in announcing it?" And of course, I was like, "Oh, you darn right. I get to, number one, I get to talk on a microphone, and at that time, probably scream in a microphone. Number two, I get to go hang out with a bunch of, 6-foot beautiful volleyball players from all over the world." And so I did that, and I ended up doing it for all 5 years that I was in college. And then it kind of morphed into different sports. And then I ended up doing the once I graduated, started announcing wrestling there, and then at different places, University of Maryland, American University, and did a bunch of youth events and
Mhm.
kind of got my niche being mobile with the microphone and going different places. And then I met Pat Publizio. He was the assistant at American University,
Right.
which
Yeah,
introduced
Mark
me to
Cody was there,
Frank.
right?
And you know, I think Frank has been a big catalyst. Jason Bryant's been great to me. Ken Berger's been great to me. And when I can be pretty flexible with stuff, they like to have me as I was a number two for a really long time,
Mm.
and but still still said yes to a lot of friends in wrestling because that's what you do.
That's
You
right.
take care of people, and then it's taking care of me. So that's kind of the evolution of it. And now I get to do stuff around the world in different sports. The voice of the Marine Corps Marathon and a bunch of triathlons and football, and I don't know. It's been a cool it's been a cool ride.
All right. So I have a similar story in that, like, just happened into the media aspect of it. Flo called me after I uploaded a Behind the Dirt and was like, "Hey, do you think you could do some commentary?" I'm like, "Sure, no problem." I had never done it before.
How hard could it be?
Yeah. And I sucked at it. It was terrible. And then they called me and they were like, "Well, can you write articles?" I'm like, "Sure, no problem." I hadn't put together a sentence in, like, you know, months, years, probably years, decades, probably. But I guess what I'm trying to say is I sucked at all those things when I started. I have a hard time visualizing you not being good on the stick. Was that the case, or were you just good at it right away?
I mean, as a 17-year-old, I think if you know the sport, and I know sports, right? It ended up being pretty good.
Hmm.
But I guarantee, I didn't know how to not scream. I didn't know how to, you know, be pleasant to work with. I can a funny story. My first year of doing volleyball, I'm 17, I know everything. And I went to the volleyball coach and I went to her ear and I said, "Hey, I want to let you know the play that the other team is running. I'm noticing that the outside hitter is going around behind their setter." And she was like, "Would you just go announce and please sit down? Don't please, we're a Division I college volleyball team. I don't need to know that." And I was like, "Oh, how dare you?" And
Right.
now coaching for 28 years, if somebody in the stands were to do that to me, I'd be like, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
But the announcer for when I coached was my dad, so he would do that, but I actually welcomed it.
Interesting. Okay. Um, and so you mentioned coaching as well. You did coach for a number of decades, and you've since moved on from it. You're on the administrative side now.
Right.
And I want to get into coaching your sons in a little bit, but I first want to get your thoughts on what it's like to not be at a wrestling event every weekend. Oh wait, you're at a wrestling
No, wait,
event.
just in a different capacity.
Yeah, it's
Um,
true. But no, I mean, what it's like to not be in, because I'm stepping away right now as well, and there are things that I miss. There are a lot of things I don't. That's for sure. But there are things that I miss. So what are the things that you miss, and what are the things that you don't miss?
Hey, don't go anywhere. It's Mike. We'll get back to the podcast in just a second. We got to pay the bills though. Do you have an athlete that's looking to break into the social media space? We at athletorlive.com have a brand new in-depth tutorial done by none other than Caden Henshaw. If you don't know who Caden is, he's not even a Division I wrestler, yet he's got hundreds of thousands of engaged followers. Learn how to create engaging content, grow your followers, and open up new opportunities in the NIL space. Go to athletorlive.com/Caden and we'll give you the first module completely free.
I'm like you. I am a technique file. I love watching great wrestling, and I love, taking that technique and kind of morphing it into the system that I had. And so now I'm watching unbelievable technique from the highest level international to really tough youth kids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how can I weave that into my system? Oh, wait, my system is no longer there. And so I really miss that teaching aspect of being with a kid and seeing that aha moment. I miss having that relationship with kids. And I don't know if there's any stronger bond than a coach and an athlete when you have, really good relationships. And I feel like that was one of the things that we did really well was we had great relationships with our kids. And so now a lot of the relationships that I have as a school administrator have to do with discipline or have to do with, a policy or a rights and responsibility that's been
Seems like a very different dynamic, yes?
a totally different dynamic and in a totally different school where I don't know where all the bodies are buried around the school. So I think that's been a challenge. I do miss that relationship. I miss hearing the great stories from the kids in the van rides. Hilarious. And they trusted my coaching staff and our coaching staff and they knew that we were like a steel trap. Things were not, they could trust us to hear what they needed and
Right.
we would fix whatever they needed. So I really miss that. I miss getting in a position and play wrestling with kids or with the coaches and figuring things out. And
Right.
how does this work? And really,
I don't think I'll ever
tweaking
get rid of
things.
that. So to harken on that point, Jack wrestled at Reno this past weekend. He got beat
Yep.
twice by the same kid. Like we already have time set aside to like go over positions, and like I don't know that I'll ever give that part up. As long as, like I said, I'm gonna ride this thing until the wheels fall off, right? Like I'm gonna
Right.
ride this thing into the rocks. I think that type of stuff. I need that for my own sanity. Forget about the kid. Like, I mean, again, the narcissism kicks in.
You know better.
Well, it's not even I know better. I want to know better, right? I
Right.
need to know better, right? Um, I need to troubleshoot or workshop this idea that I have, and it could be flat out wrong, but it's something that I need to do. So yeah, I could definitely see missing that. What are the things that you don't miss though?
I don't miss having to hustle at the end of the day to get ready for practice when there's still things to do. Like
Right.
as a teacher, as an educator, you have other things, and I don't miss having to hustle and to get to practice.
Right.
I don't miss uh, dealing with kids who, they none of them want to hurt us, right? But dealing with that kid who you're going to have to break their heart. I always said that wrestle off days and award days were the two worst days of the year because somebody's going to be let down.
Sure.
And I'm not a big conflict guy, you know that. I don't deal with it very well. I don't miss being the logistics planner of travel and of fundraising and of this and of this and of this. I don't
And
miss.
and we can talk about that for an hour, because when you started coaching, the role was very different than it was when you finished coaching. Yes?
So different. And I started with, the program at the high school at Robinson Secondary School was really good when I became the coach. However, it was good locally.
Mm-hmm.
We became pretty good nationally, and we went all over the country. I mean, my first year, my wife and I would discuss me going an hour down the road for a tournament and being gone for a day.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we progressed, I was gone 2 and 3 days with a bunch of kids away from home. And so that was different. We didn't stay in hotels, and the parents weren't like, well, we have to stay at the nicest hotel. I was like, well, we got to raise the money to not stay at the Super 8.
Yeah.
But yeah, the everything changed.
Right.
And now from the perspective of announcing and broadcasting, I mean, it's totally changed.
Right.
How the top kids in the country, how they need more.
Mhm.
How our athletes in college, they could survive, but now with the new NIL and the new all these things, they have to have more, and they have to be coddled more because they get more, and that's really hard.
It's interesting, man. I gotta tread real lightly right
Yes, you do.
now. So, I have been privy to discussions about NIL numbers,
Yeah.
and it's it's baffling to me what some institutions are willing to spend on a completely unproven high school, what amounts to a high school wrestler. Okay.
Well, Mike, also the whole nature of the financing is foreign, and it's unproven, because you look at what's happening in Utah right now with they're putting private equity funds into teams. At a certain point, that money's going to dry up, and they're leveraging money down the line. They're hedging bets that they might not get that money back. So what's going to happen then when they call them to the number?
Mm.
Scary.
I'll add to that point. How about this? I think we're starting to see it already. Okay, because the days of, and I spoke to, I don't know if I should say his name. Whatever. I spoke to a coach this weekend at the event, and he said, yeah, the pendulum is starting to go back the other way a little bit. The days of us hearing about, and I don't know, again, I always preface this on the podcast by saying I don't know if these numbers are true, but the days of us hearing that Bo Bassett is getting $1 million a year for 5 years to go to Iowa, they're gone, right? Because of the House settlement with the NCAA, everything has to go through an arbitrator. They have to justify the numbers that they're getting. I think we're going to start seeing it swing the other way. But that said, there's still the numbers to me, are still pretty staggering. What would it like? Not that anybody's calling us, okay? But what would it take for you to become an NCAA wrestling coach in 2026?
Oh my goodness.
Everyone says, ooh.
Ooh, I mean, as a high school coach, I was putting my faith into 14 to 18-year-old boys and girls. These coaches are putting their faith into 18 to 24 to 25 to 26-year-old boys and girls, and mid 27, 20. But and they're expecting that they need that money now. I don't know if I would want to do that. I mean, I would love to be a college assistant, maybe, where you could, run a practice and find, little nuances of things that work and work inside the institution. But doing that extra, you're looking at the top level programs where they have a business manager doing all this, and these business managers, they could be working at, Lehman Brothers, or they could be
Absolutely.
working at Merrill Lynch. Goldman Sachs, yeah, Goldman Sachs, they can be doing any of that. And now they're getting that money in a NCAA program. I mean, was it you and I that were talking about the football now that they want to go, they want to have 5 years?
No, tell me about it.
So the new lawsuit of they don't want to go 5 years to complete 4. They just want to have 5 years because that athlete who is really good but is never going to be a professional player, they want that salary for their 5th year.
Makes sense.
Totally makes total sense, because then you're not worried about paying a red shirt,
right,
all the money, and never knowing if they're going to see the field, the mat, the court, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so that's tough.
Yeah.
And rosters either taking opportunities away, because now rosters are going to have to shrink. So the Division I, it's scary.
Yeah. It is. It is.
And I know you coach junior college. I
Right.
mean, junior college Division III, where you
Yeah.
don't see that as much.
No, it was apples and oranges. Like
Yeah.
I talk to these guys and it's apples and oranges. But what we are seeing though, what we are seeing is, especially now, high school coaches have to wear those hats, those administrative, those fundraising, those recruiting hats far more than they ever did. Was that one of your signs to start stepping away?
I think it was my hip that hurt, my shoulder that hurt, my neck that hurt, but yes, it was because when then you have some kids who are good, but they're
Mhm.
not Division I good,
Right.
but they want to go Division I and they expect money. And I'm like, no, there's not going to be money there. And that's another hard thing when you're at a top level program and trying to get kids into school. Um, but that was a piece of it. And just that extra layer of logistics in the recruiting process, and then having to, um, measure how much are they worth,
Hmm.
and the coaches then telling them one thing and having, at the end of the day, if they don't pan out that first year, they're like, yeah, we're going to take that money away.
Yeah.
So it's difficult. You got to know contracts. You got to know psychology. You got to know travel. You got to know more finance than I would have ever known
And
as a
wrestling. And wrestling.
and wrestling.
Right.
And
Whereas
yeah,
it was a different ball game when, well, Gable probably had a good idea of it, but certainly his contemporaries didn't really have to think about that in the 80s, 70s, 80s, and early 90s.
no, and there were 200 and some programs.
Right.
When you're dealing with 76, 77 programs,
Right.
the talent pool is huge. And
Right.
where do they go?
Right.
So yeah, I don't think that they had those type of thoughts. And if they were doing it, the bigger programs, you had to really be careful of figuring out what's legal and not legal. And now it feels like it's, the wild, wild west out there.
Right.
Um,
It is. It is. I mean, Coach O, right, from LSU,
yeah.
went on a podcast like last week and was like, "Yeah, it's just in the front door now. Everything was done in the back door last night. It's not any different, and maybe for a team like LSU football, it's not, right? They're very accustomed to running
We
the
don't do his voice. I like Coach O doing his voice. I didn't have to deal with that back then in the Cajun, the Bayou.
Coach O's the best.
He's amazing.
He's amazing. There was like three different Hollywood characters that are based on that guy, and it's just he's amazing. All right, let's move on to coaching your actual sons is an interesting dynamic, and knowing what a good dad and empathetic coach you are, it it's a minefield at times. Yes.
Oh, I mean, I have three boys who came through our high school program. And the first one, gosh, I'd love to go back to his freshman year and do it all differently. Um, I would get more stressed out with him, and then that would stress him out. And, I would go back and treat him maybe probably a little bit different with less stress and less pressure. He did it well. I can remember when he told me, he said, "Dad, I need you to back away from me, please, because you're causing me stress." And I was like, "Oh, criminy."
Yeah.
And so then and he did well, and he was very good. Wrestled at Old Dominion. Started at Lehigh, then went to Old Dominion, and he had a love for wrestling.
Mhm.
My middle son, he's bigger, so he was a heavyweight. My Tyler, my oldest, was in the 140 to 152 range. Um, and then I asked Alex, I said, "Why are you wrestling?" Because he played football and he did acting and played tennis. And he goes, "Because I want to spend time with my dad." And
Sure.
because I was never home. And he ended up having a great high school career. And my wife and I would sit and smile watching him because he was just doing it, and he was a great athlete and just a hard worker. But he just did it because he wanted to be with us.
Right.
And then my youngest, he has his own way too, and he got sick his junior year and started had orthostatic hypotension, which just like POTS, where he would be wrestling and all of a sudden, phew, he'd go out, and so that caused another level of stress where you're always worried about his health. But in the room, I wanted to be the dumbest man in the room. So I brought in coaches who were unbelievable. And our assistant coaches were top shelf, good humans, loud. Some had their way of being, very disciplinary. Others were very technical. Some were older, some were younger. And so I was able to have the little bit of pride to give my sons to somebody else and let them, be their mentor as a coach. Where, we all talked about it behind the scenes, but I learned not to be on the forefront and even in the corner with some of them because it was better because I had to come home with them.
Right.
And I had to have dinner with them and I had to not talk wrestling with them. So it was definitely a learned game of coaching my own kids because they wanted to win as much as any kid, but at the same time they also wanted to be a son and they wanted to be at the house and not have me saying, "Let's go, feet on the floor, got to get to practice, got to do this. What are you doing? Why'd you lose? Let's go watch film." I just didn't do that at home.
Right. Yeah, it's like I said, it's a minefield, man. It's an interesting dynamic that happens, and I wonder if I'll rephrase. I'll ask you. Are we as a culture in wrestling getting better at being dad coaches or worse?
I think every dad of a very high level youth and high school kid wants to be a coach and they want their kid to be the highest ranking they could be. That's some dads. I forever,
Yeah.
I had a great dad who was my coach, you know, who would say, if you don't want to do this, please tell me because that's okay.
Yeah.
If you don't win, that's okay. Let's talk about it. But there are, even in the 80s and 90s when I was coming through, late 70s, there were dads out there who were absolute crazies.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I'm fortunate to be able to do tournaments around the country for youth and high school kids and be the announcer. And you see the best and you see the worst.
Oh yeah.
And you know who they are. And a lot of those kids that have those crazy wrestling moms and dads don't always pan out because they
I would
put
say the majority.
they
I would
put
say
so much stress on themselves.
Yeah. So that still, you haven't answered the question. Are we getting better or worse at it?
Yeah, I purposely didn't
I
answer
know
that
you did.
question.
That's why I'm here.
I think, again, I always am going to come through with a thought of good intentions. I think we're getting better
Mhm.
watching some of the programs. But I don't know if our club game has gotten better to not bring the crazy dads as a part of the coaching staffs.
I think, okay, that's fair. Okay.
So the ones that have the dads who are the coaches, who are the assistant, who they're really just there to maintain order with their own child,
Mhm.
they struggle still.
Yeah. I think we're starting to get away from that though. I mean, we
I
talk
hope.
all the time on this podcast and up until very recently, David Taylor, who was an Olympic gold medalist, was in essence a club coach, right?
Right.
Like, I mean, he had M2. I mean, I know he was helping out with Nittany Lion and stuff like that, but for the most part, he was just a youth wrestling coach for
Right.
a long time. So I think we're seeing a level of professionalism enter into youth wrestling, and I say youth, I mean youth and high school wrestling, that if you're a dad that wrestled JV in high school and you bring your kid to M2 and you can't keep your hands off of your own kid, you're an idiot. And I think it's like, you're an idiot, right? Like, you're just a fool, because you have David Taylor, at the time, Marky was there. Well, Marky, what you call it, McKnight is still there, but also, like, you got RBY in the room, and you got Bo Nickel in the room, and you got, well, probably Bo, not Bo, but you get the point. You got high level guys in that room that if you feel the need to show your kid how to go far ankle scramble, you're probably an idiot. Yeah, you're probably an idiot.
But let's think about that. Let's dissect this a little bit, Mike. What's the program that they're coming from? So they're learning. I mean, you look at the way Casey Cunningham works with his own kids. You look at the way that they take. There's nobody better as a coach of taking the pressure off their kids that has ever been a coach than Cale Sanderson. And it's Cale plus Cody plus Casey, plus all of their folks who they have, who they've done that well. And so David Taylor, coming from that pedigree, has learned what to do.
Sure.
We still have coaches who, I call it the Charles Manson syndrome, right? That our parents allow kids to go to these clubs with very suspect coaches, who are not just suspect in wrestling,
right,
but are suspect in life, and it's scary to me.
Sure. Yeah, no, I hear you on that. It's again, I just don't, and maybe I'm a wholehearted optimist. I see it starting to dissipate, like the crazy dad throwing plastics on his kid, 9 years old, and making him run X amount of miles. It's just like, well, no, David Taylor said go up and wait, so we're gonna go up and wait, and so I hope, and maybe it's a hope more than it is just a known thing. I hope that we kind of move in that direction sooner rather than later.
Well, you were kind of coming through when I was coming through, right at the beginning of the weight management.
Sure.
I mean, I had just graduated college when the weights changed and when the deaths happened, and we really did have to take a look at what we were doing, and the amount of weight cutting that was going on at that time was it was the worst thing for kids, because they focused on getting down to the lowest weight and being miserable. They also had 6 hours to day before weigh-ins to rehydrate. Now with the 1 hour, 2 hour weigh-in, it's, come on.
I've gone over, it was 1997 when those kids all died. And if you don't know the story, 3 kids in a matter of 5 weeks passed away cutting weight. And the NCAA had a knee-jerk reaction. And for years, my reaction to their reaction was, well, it's kind of bullshit, because it was reactionary. The weight management protocol that was set in place, especially in the beginning, was kind of nonsense. We did this hydration test that everyone cheated, me included. And as a coach, I told my kids to cheat. Like, it was nonsense.
Yeah.
So there was this kind of structure of bullshit that was put together by the NCAA early on. But as I became further and further removed from it, I think the sentiment was far more important with that than the actual structure. Because
100%.
The sentiment was, hey, kids are dying, we need to knock this off immediately. And they were right about that. they were right about that. And also my innate disdain for any type of
Rules.
rules and hierarchy of things. I just can't stand it. But uh and authority in general. So I guess but feeling now as a dad, the sentiment that went along with it, yes, something needed to change. There was far too many kids in saunas for the bad reasons, right? And that's another thing. They took away saunas from us. Like saunas are a great tool, but if you're doing it with the wrong intent and the wrong reasons, they can be no bueno, man.
Right. And when you're dealing with, again, the teenage brain, 18 to 24-year-old, and they see this hot room and they don't have a coach who's going, here are the benefits of it. Here's why we do this. Here's what we're going to do to make it really great for our health. They will use it to the detriment of their body. They'll put plastics and bikes in and
I still can't go on an Airdyne. I won't go on an Airdyne.
No, it hurts.
Because I remember doing Airdyne sprints in the sauna.
In the sauna.
It was miserable.
Yes.
Miserable. I don't know if you know this, but one of the kids that passed away was at Campbell.
Yep.
One of the assistant coaches at Campbell was Heath Grimm, who's now at Upper Iowa, I believe. But he was my assistant coach at Syracuse before they dropped their program. He won't talk about it. I've already asked him. I asked him multiple times to come on this podcast, and I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all because he was there when that kid died, and I guess the question in this is, could you imagine being in his situation in 1997? And he was a young coach at the time because he was young when he was at Syracuse with me. Could you imagine being in that scenario and everything that you like? Because he grew up in Iowa. Everything he grew up doing now is like you're demonized for it, and with good reason, I suppose. But could you imagine being in his shoes?
No, I mean you're dealing with, again, life and death situations for kids who are pigeon brains, right? They didn't know what not to do, and if you don't see that happening, that's trouble. Now, but him, like, now he's got this demon on his shoulder, and he's vilified for the rest of his life for something that wasn't purposeful, that wasn't out of the ordinary, that he wasn't doing anything in his mind to be negligent. And yes, so I can't imagine. I can't imagine the stress that he feels and just the horrible feeling that he has about that he was a part of that. And I just can't imagine.
All right, let's turn the page. I want to get so we do this thing. It's the sprint, and we fire off questions to guests, and we get their knee-jerk kind of thoughts on things. But you have such an interesting role in the sport. What's the best match you've ever called?
Oof. So 2017, I was asked by UWW to be the broadcaster, so not the PA announcer, for the Snyder Sajalayev one. I was on the mic for that. That was incredible. Wasn't the greatest match ever, but just
pretty awesome. It was
pretty awesome match. The back and forth, and I got to watch it the other day. It just happened to pop up on my feed, and I continued to watch, and it was just amazing. With everything on the line, right? That one. The NCAA championships in Madison Square Garden, for me, that was our first.
So it's funny that you say that. That's number one on my list. Gwiz Snyder.
Yeah.
Gwiz Snyder is number one on my, like, I do camps and stuff still, and
Right.
Kids are like, what was the greatest match you've ever seen in person? I'm like, I was on the floor. Gwiz Snyder, Madison Square Garden.
I mean, come on.
Like, what else is there, dude?
is incredible.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. And that was the last match of my first NCAA tournament announcing. And there was, we obviously had some pushback because we were the new guys and we did it differently than anybody had ever done it. And so they were already mad. But then we get this unbelievable tournament in Madison Square Garden where we have to announce this, this some of the craziest bouts ever. And that one, it came down to that. NCAA champion, the new buck coming up, right? And he moves from 97 to heavyweight. And it was such a big.
Madison Square Garden.
And in Madison Square Garden, the most famous arena in the world.
Yeah, it was, and if I remember correctly, that was like the first time they used pyro, right? Like it was a thing, dude. It was a thing, and like it was on, like the tournament started on St. Patty's Day, or it was like there was like drunk girls out in the street, like with Four Locos taped to their hands, and it was just, it was such a wild scene that weekend.
Yeah.
I do want to move on, but just one last tidbit about that Madison Square Garden trip. That Wednesday, so the tournament starts on Thursday. That Wednesday, I get a call from one John W. Smith, and John calls you. You look at your phone, you're like, all right, either it's an ass dial or I got to pick this up now, right? And so I answer the phone. Hey, coach, what's going on? He's like, hey, man, you still got that club over in Jersey? I'm like, yeah, it's down the road. He's like, well, what's the commute like? I'm like, well, I was planning on taking the train in. He's like, well, you got one of them, and this is his exact phrase. He's like, you got one of them pedal bikes? I'm like, you mean an Airdyne? He's like, yeah. I said, yeah, I got an Airdyne. He's like, we got some boys that are real heavy right now. He goes, this workout facility in the hotel is not great. He's like, you think you could bring that pedal bike with you? I'm like, you want me to bring an Airdyne on the train and through Midtown? Could you? Yeah, I could.
Yep, right away.
Yeah. So upside down, Airdyne goes on my left shoulder. And I'm walking through Midtown from Penn Station to the hotel.
Yeah, but by the way, that wasn't the strangest thing that people saw in Midtown or on the train that day. That was just a normal Wednesday.
Yeah, that was it. No, I guess you're right. And now that I think about it, I think it was more about the pain in the ass that it was to lift the sumbitch up and put it on my shoulder and walk my ass to the hotel from Penn Station. But anyway, okay.
But coming back to what you asked, I mean, gosh, some of the old like EIWA tournaments of in the past, where looking at Kyle Dake and him getting beat in the finals of the EIWA, right? I mean,
Bucknell kid, right?
Bucknell kid, yeah. I'm having a brain fart, and I just had it on my head.
That's all right.
LaValle, sorry, LaValle.
I'll bring it up.
LaValle, it's there.
Yeah.
And that was incredible. That was like. We had some great events. And there's been so many great bouts. I think about last year. I mean, with Stevenson and Hendrickson, that might have been the top, because I had this great thing that I was going to say when Hendrickson won. And it was, some people call him second lieutenant. Some people, maybe even call him Superman, Captain America, but we call him national champion. And nobody could hear it because it was so loud in that arena. That's the loudest I've ever heard an arena ever.
100%. And I couldn't agree more.
Incredible.
I was underneath. And it was like the place was undulating. Like literally the place was rocking. And dude, I've been in places like I've watched Mariano Rivera come out to enter Sandman.
Yeah.
At the old Yankee Stadium that was made out of rickets. And like it was I've seen him in game sixes,
right.
And this was louder. I've never heard anything like that.
That was pretty amazing. That was incredible.
Okay. What is your favorite city to visit in the world?
Gosh, I loved Oslo.
Okay.
That was one of my favorite
Because
trips
you're
that we've
not the
been
whitest
on.
person there, but go ahead.
That was incredible. Um,
Nothing on that? That was hilarious. Hold on a second. Pause button there, Joel Shaw. He said Oslo, Norway, and I said it's only because you're not the whitest person there. Good stuff. Don't let that drown. Don't let that drown. Hold on a second. That was good. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead about Oslo.
we just had fun. I mean, it was just kind of at the end game of COVID.
Right.
Everybody was kind of coming out. We still had to get tested before we went, but everybody was feeling good about being out.
Good.
And so, 2021, that was a great trip. Um, but goodness, I mean, like we talked about Madison Square Garden. I think Kansas City was one of my favorite places I've ever done a tournament.
Dude, Kansas City ruled. I've told Joel Shaw this. Like everything from the fact that the bars were right across the street at the Power and Light District, the fact that the arena was awesome, the fact that it was so easy to get into and out of the arena because of mass transit, the fact that the hotels were in great proximity. Like there was just so many good things about Kansas City. They're gonna put,
And we had great weather.
and we did
We
have great
so,
weather.
so when you're in the 50s every day, 55, and you can walk without being frigid, it
Yeah,
was awesome. And everything about that tournament, um, what was a fantastic event
yeah.
to that arena. But I've had that ability to go around the world now, to Kazakhstan, to Paris, to um, you know uh, Serbia, and Croatia. It, how blessed, like how lucky. And sometimes I scratch my head like,
Think about
what the
all.
heck? I've got to do the coolest stuff and talk on a microphone and be around my literal idols like Mike Malinconico all the time. It's amazing though.
No, every day I think about it, and every day I don't. It doesn't pass me. Like it doesn't get old, and it doesn't get jaded. Like I am very grateful for what we do, no question about it.
And
All right,
and
so that
I
was your
talk like
favorite.
real quick. I talk about that all the time. Everybody's like, "So you're going to do the NCAAs this year? Are you going to do the Worlds this year?" And I'm like, "I got no idea." They could say no, and I could not be there, and that would be okay. I would be sad, but at the same time, I've gotten to do this really cool stuff for the last 20 some years, and gotten to announce from when they're 5 years old all the way till they're in the worlds, right? I mean, like the Aaron Brookses of the world, those type of kids, the Yannis and those kids. I've gotten to announce them since they were middle school or elementary school kids, and you get to watch them to the fruition of where they go. So it's been pretty awesome.
Yeah. Every time I really sit and think about it, we're pretty blessed to be here for sure. I outkicked my coverage on this whole wrestling thing for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to our sprint here, unless Joel Shaw has anything.
Bring it home.
Bring it home. All right, greatest wrestling shoe of all time, Bryan Hazard.
Oh goodness. The German I had, again, being a
Little
narcissist,
freestyles.
the pink and green and baby blue ones. I love those. But the Rulons to me were the ones that were my most comfortable.
Okay.
Or the Mike Deannas that I had my freshman year in college that only lasted for a short time. I love those shoes.
Okay. Mike Deanna. I don't
They were
know.
this, they were just that kind of a knockoff, one off, and I found them and I got big old wide Fred Flintstone feet and they fit my foot perfectly.
Okay. All right. Let's hold on. He's looking for him. Let's see. Is that them?
Yep, mine were black though, but yes, those were the ones.
Oh, no way. Those are pretty sick.
And that was at the time my awful arches couldn't use a split sole. And
Right.
so those were the only flat soled shoes at
Those
the
are
time.
sick, dude. They kind of look like the Flash.
They made me wrestle really well.
All
I loved them.
right, great. Give me a book review
Book
or
review.
recommendation. No, recommendation. Sorry.
Okay. Magic Strings of Frankie Presto.
Okay.
One of my all-time favorite books, Mitch Albom. He's the sports reporter guy, Tuesdays with Maury,
Okay.
and it's all about a guy who's born and he gets a guitar, and it's all about when the strings finally break, that's the end of your life. And it's all about his growing up all the way through till he dies. And I'm a music file, so it's all about the soundtrack of your life.
Sure.
I read it and then I listened to it. To read it was phenomenal, but the Audible or the Audible book is incredible.
Okay. I'm gonna have to download that tomorrow. Okay.
It's amazing.
Okay. All right. You only get 4. They gotta be American. Who is on your Mount Rushmore of wrestling?
So I knew this question was coming because I watch,
Mhm.
and I didn't know if it was American because, my son's name is Alex. I named him after Alexander Karelin, and I think that's why he was so big because he was Alexander Karelin, right? But I'm gonna go. Gosh, it's funny. I've been thinking a lot about this because I've been watching so much wrestling, and
Okay.
I look at the old Gable videos,
Mhm.
and styles were what they were,
Sure.
right? And
We're like
so
2 guys leaning on each other like this.
yes, and I think about what would happen if somebody dove underneath. Then they wouldn't have known what to do, but they would have figured it out.
Yes.
So I wore yellow sweatpants when I was a kid because I wanted to be an Iowa
Oh,
Hawkeye.
how
So
sexy were those yellow sweatpants? Why were they so good looking?
yeah, I don't know, but they
I don't
were
know.
the best, right? I wore them like probably too much.
Yeah.
So Gable's on there for me.
Uh-huh.
Um, you know, it's funny. Uh, I did a little search on this, and it gave me who it should be, and all of those guys should be on there. But for me, Bruce Bumgarner, probably the most, he is the most decorated American athlete. Maybe not all golds, but his longevity, and then now what he does,
WWE.
as a wrestler, right? But now as just a diplomat, and what he does for wrestling is pretty incredible. Um, John W. for me, uh, and I've never told him this story, and I've spent a lot of time with him. But I made a world team in 1988 or 1989. We were at the Olympic Training Center, and so we're at the Olympic Training Center, and I'm with Jacob Newby and all of these guys from Oklahoma, and they were in love with John Smith. And he came in, and this is back in the early days of John. He looked over at us as we were training. He went to the squat bar. He did one squat and he walked out. And you would have thought these kids, because, he was the guy.
Yeah.
Kids just were broken. And I remember thinking, oh, John could have done so much. But at that point, and he's talked about it since, like, he didn't know. He was all about him winning. And now he's one of my favorite humans in the world to talk to. But as a wrestler, changed the game. Him and like a Ricky Sanders changed the game of what was going on. So we got Gable and John.
Bruce.
You know, you got it. And I feel like everybody's kind of the same. You got Bruce in there.
Yeah, but the important part, and so just so we're clear, the reason we started asking this question was because yes, a lot of the lists are the same, but it's A, proves the impact these people have had on the sport, but
Right.
also B, it kind of it lends us some insight into what you find important in the sport.
Right.
So you
Right.
got Bruce, John, and Gable.
Right. And so those were my contemporaries that I looked up to as a kid, right? That I wanted to model my style. I wasn't flexible enough to be John, but I tried to be, right? And the transitions in him wrestling. And people always talk about his low single, but he probably had the best high crotch of anybody,
100%.
right? You look at Gable, he did a fireman's all the time, but he really just his go behinds and his snaps changed the game.
Sure.
As a heavyweight, Bruce wrestled like a 150 pounder, he was doing elbow passes and head snaps and change of direction before anybody was at that game. And my fourth, gosh, I mean, I'm torn too because, Cale won an Olympic title, did all those things. What he's done as a coach is incredible. And I need a fifth, right? Because I don't get it. I know I don't get it, but I'm putting him in there. And then I look at Jordan and what he's done. And yes. And then I look at Helen, and then I look at all these people who have been trailblazers. But for me, just from where I teach now and what people see, Cale is, I mean, he should be my fourth, but I'm going to give it to Jordan Burroughs because what he is as a man for me, what he does for his community. When I came from a high school for 28 years that was 6% black, and we were 90% white, and now I'm at a school that's 45 to 50% black, and I look at these kids and I look at the role models that they have, and I talk to Jordan as a wrestler. He defied the odds, right? He won one high school state title, right? He got hurt in college in his first 2 years. He was good.
Yeah.
He was really good. I was actually at the Northeast Duels when he tore his ACL. But then what he's done from there, I mean, he was a guy on the plane going to this first world championship that didn't know freestyle and won a world title.
He read the rules.
Yeah, he didn't know the rules. He knew he could do what he could do, and he has continued to compete through all of that and had to morph his style.
Yeah.
I mean, he had to morph his style. He had to go from, what's that?
3 different rule sets he's been through.
Yeah. Three and his body can't do a double like it used to. So now his single is, and his top game and his gut, like he had to change and he had to be, and as an ambassador for the sport, which I look at, from my view as an announcer, the Ed Alverdes of the world, going around the world and changing the game there, the production value. He has to take a group on his back and be something for folks in the urban areas who didn't always have someone to look for, like the Nate Carrs and the Kenny Mondays, and them too, but nothing like Jordan Burroughs. And I said I'll never be able to be a broadcaster at the Olympic Games only if he continues to compete, because there's no way that I'll be able to do it if he's there, because he's so polished and he's so good and he's so knowledgeable and he's a great man. So
yeah, he is. One of the best ambassadors, probably the best thing that's happened to our sport in the last 100 years, right? I mean, like no one can really touch it. No one can touch it. It's amazing to me. All right.
And you love him, and he's from Jersey, right? He's an East Coast guy. Come on, like
for sure.
Look, it's so I there's so many, and I'm like you. I'm a complete file. Like Gray Simons was my high school coach's college roommate, and he used to come into our room, and when I was a kid, unbelievable. 7
NCAA titles.
Yeah, and who he is as a man. You watch his matches from the 60s, and he was doing things, elbow passes and rolls and snaps and like putting multiple shots together. He changed the game too. So for him, gosh, I don't know.
Yeah,
but yes,
it's tough. It's tough to narrow it down to 4, and that's why we do it.
Yeah.
Okay, you got a magic wand.
Yeah.
You can change only one thing about the sport of wrestling, and it changes tomorrow. What would it be?
Gosh. There's I've heard people here say a step out point, but I think people would learn how to doctor that. I think, people wanting, I don't know if rules changing makes a difference, because you always find a way to bogart those rules, right?
Sure.
I think we have to market it to the non-wrestling people and the non-wrestling minds. I would change and get 100 more Division I programs, or I would take all of the programs, NAIA, NCAA 1, 2, and 3, and I would put them together.
Interesting.
And to make a huge wrestling of, gosh, I don't know. That's a hard one. Let's say, I don't know. I'm going to go 1 5-minute period and switch it to freestyle because I love freestyle.
Love it. Dude, do you remember that one freestyle period?
Oh, I loved it.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I thought it was amazing, dude. Like it was the longest period of your life, but it was perfect, dude. Like, especially for guys like me who love being in a neutral position and had a gas tank. Dude, I'll take that all freaking day. No, especially with a step out point where you can't bounds.
Yeah.
I'll take that all.
1 5-minute period, freestyle. But boy, I do love being on top 2 and capturing wrists. And so, oh gosh, let's see. Let me think of another one.
Oh, you burned it. You burned it.
Shit.
You're done.
Flip.
You and Kerry Colott, episode 93, his magic wand, also 1 5-minute period.
See, you're good.
I love Gary Colott. We think alike. Don't tell him I said that because he'd be like Pumpkinhead, because he was my roommate at the World Championships. He called me Pumpkinhead, and we had good time in high school. So
that's amazing. Okay, Bryan Hazard, thank you very, very much for spending some time with us. I know you got family in town. I appreciate your time, man. Thank you.
Well, I love you, and I love this sport. So thank you for having me on. And I was excited when I got your text yesterday. I was like, "What? I'm in!
I made it, Mom! I made it.
Woohoo!"
All right, I will see you probably in Albany. You gonna be at that girls event?
I'm there. Yeah, I'm at everything.
Okay. All things Frank.
21 years of Frank. I've missed one event. So,
well, he'll get on me about the one that I missed this year. So, anyway, Bryan Hazard, you're the best. I appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, Mike.
Wait, don't go anywhere before you hit that next button. If you enjoyed listening to this episode, do us a huge favor. Click that subscribe button. And if you're so inclined, leave a review and share it.